Thank you. The member for Riverina.
Well, I take the member for Lalor up on a few of the points that she made, and she actually belled the cat when the member for Lalor talked about team leaders calling teachers at 9:30 at night. Team leaders aren't the employers. Team leaders are not the principals. And this leads into, if in fact it does become illegal for a boss to call a worker after the said appointed hours, what happens when a team leader who is not the boss, who is not the employer, who is not the person paying the wages, does that? Do they go to jail? Is there a term of imprisonment? I mean, that's what the Greens would have us do and say, because the Greens have hardly ever— I don't know too many Greens who've run small businesses. Yes, there would be some, granted, but this is dangerous territory in which we are entering, in which we are navigating, when we have employers who pay the wages of the employee not allowed to call them after hours. And what it's going to see is a reverse effect. The employer who is allowing the employee to work from home, to do all sorts of things like have haircuts and that in the boss's time, well, all that will stop. We'll get a very, very hard and fast rules about what people can do and when they can do it and how they can do it. And this is dangerous territory, not thought through. And all the manager of opposition business wanted was for this to be lay on the table for until the next sitting. That's all we were debating in the House of Representatives, because this is complex legislation. It is a bad bill. It is a terribly bad bill. It's possibly complex and intricate. Way too much uncertainty for those small businesses who, during COVID, struggled so much, and yet while we provided JobKeeper and the other arrangements and kept their doors open and kept people in jobs, this mob came to power and said, what have we got for $1 trillion worth of Liberal Party debt? Well, it wasn't $1 trillion, it was nowhere near that. But what we did is we saved livelihoods, and indeed we saved lives. That's what we did in the time of a global pandemic. And indeed, we were credited with being one of the very best in the world at the provisions we put in place to keep business doors open, to keep people safe and to keep people alive. This bill adds huge costs to businesses. Businesses are already struggling. They're struggling because there is a cost of living crisis. They're struggling because there is inflationary pressures on everybody. Labor has the levers which they could pull to ease the situation, and yet they are not, unfortunately. Instead, they're just— he who pays the piper calls the tune, and unfortunately the unions are calling the tune. And Labor, well, they're just going along with what the union paymasters say they need to do. It does nothing, as the member for Casey pointed out in his eloquent remarks, does nothing for productivity. It doesn't increase productivity. And I take exception to the member for Lawler's remarks that we on this side don't want people to be paid more. Indeed we do, but what we want is people to be able to keep more of what they earn. Keep more of what they earn. And at the moment, whilst the wages might be slightly higher in certain sectors, aged care and others, they're taking home less because their disposable income has been far reduced by the policies and the measures put forward by those opposite, who don't have, quite frankly, they don't give a tinker's cuss about businesses, shows in this legislation. They don't care so long as the union members are getting what they need and what they want. This risks jobs, and it does, because if you are an employer, if you are a boss in a small business, you will think twice about putting on, particularly that young person. You will think twice about putting on a person who doesn't want to go above and beyond. And it's all in balance. It's all very much a balance as to whether an employer is going too far by calling somebody after hours, and it works itself out. Bad bosses are quickly recognised and quickly identified, and it just doesn't, and they just don't cut it. This institutionalises conflict in our workplace. It does, and that's something that we want to avoid at all costs. Government says it's made concessions for businesses. I tell you what, the business community doesn't like it, and they will remember this at the next election. They will, and it weakens our economy. It reduces our effectiveness as a nation to be able to pay people the right amount of money, the people to take home more than what they earn and for the economy to grow.